Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a super sloppy sports and entertainment talk show that's hosted by a giant mess. That's me, the real cinch, Neal Lynch. This here pod, this here show, we cover a whole bunch of things. It's all over the place, from New York Giants football to Mets baseball, movie reviews and recaps, TV show reactions, with some life lessons and life stories mixed in for good measure. On today's episode, we're going to be reviewing Andrew Santino's Netflix comedy special entitled Cheeseburger. Delicious. We'll also review Nate Bargatze's Hello World, which is on Amazon Prime. We'll take a look at Weird, the Al Yankovic story, which is on the Roku channel. Roku? We'll also look at The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, starring one Nicolas Cage, an up-and-comer who's got chops and has big, bright things ahead of him. And then we'll finish up with a review of the recently released Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Does it suck as much as the critics say it sucks? You'll have to stay tuned. So with that, let's get started. Let's talk about Andrew Santino's new comedy special on Netflix titled Cheeseburger. If you've seen the special, congratulations. I'm proud of you. Released in January 10th, 2023. I've been meaning to get to it, been meaning to watch it, and I finally got to tune in, and I was not disappointed. Started off red hot, just like his hair, because he's a redhead. Now, if you're not familiar with Andrew Santino, he plays a manager / best friend of Little Dicky on the series Dave, which is on FX, and I highly recommend it. I think season 3 comes out, debuts, premieres in April. But that so far, I think, has been my favorite role that Santino has done. He's done some other stuff. Me Time on Netflix, which I think is a movie. I haven't watched it yet. The remake of House Party, which I'm assuming, judging by the trailer, he is the only funny part of that movie. Like, I've seen House Party 1 through 3, I believe. 3, I don't consider it part of the House Party canon. Nick canon. House Party 1 and 2 were awesome, I think. They were pretty good. I thoroughly enjoy them. Don't know why they need to do a remake, especially with two dudes. I mean, I'm an old white guy, so what the fuck do I know? But I don't recognize those two dudes that they got to play Kid and Play. Kid and Play, dude. Kid and Play. How do you beat Kid and Play? I don't know. We're getting off track. Andrew Santino, he also has 2 podcasts. You know, I have one podcast that, in all reality, in all earnestness, seriousness, you know, if you're a Grolix fan, sound the earnestness horn. This podcast should probably be like 4 different podcasts. Like, I've been uploading these. You can only pick one category. Apparently, you can't change it every time for every episode. And I think I picked comedy. I might pick sports at first, and then I picked comedy, and I was just like, there's some funny moments, right? It's not all 100% comedy all the time, but it's funny enough, right? But, you know, if I had the resources, this would be like, I think I could potentially do 4 podcasts. But he has 2. Whiskey Ginger, which I believe is solo, that he has guests on, like friends in the stand-up comedy industry. And they drink a little whisk, a little burb. And then they exchange stories, funny stories. And honestly, I need to tune into it. I don't know why I haven't. So I'm going to follow it and subscribe it directly after the show. And then the other one is called Bad Friend or Bad Friends with, Bobby Lee, who you might remember from the Mad TV show. Really good in that. But he also was in Harold and Kumar movies. 2 of them? 3 of them? All 3? As the guy who's like, he was the student at Princeton in the first one, I think. And then I don't know if he made an appearance in the second one, maybe, but the third one, he was now working under Harold Rolly. I've seen clips of that pod on my IG feed, and I've liked it, and it keeps feeding me the good stuff. So I definitely need to subscribe and follow that as well. So shout out for those 2 pods. I have watched, this is the second special of his I've watched. I think he's only had 2 specials, if I'm not mistaken. The first one I thought was pretty good. I think it was in his hometown of Chicago because he's from Chicago. I totally forget where this one was, but I want to say Phoenix, but I think that's where Nate Bargatze did his. So maybe not Phoenix. Oh boy. He went to ASU. I know Santino went to ASU. Sun Devil for life. What up? I didn't go to ASU. In retrospect, maybe I should have. There's a whole, we talk about alternate realities and alternate universes, and I think that there's another variant of me that just said yes to everything and didn't care so much about so much stupid bullshit that ultimately really didn't impact or affect my life in any way. Like, look at where I ended up. So part of me thinks I maybe fell in love with Jake Plummer and followed in his footsteps at ASU. Did he go to ASU? I hope to God he did. I don't know. The memories all bleed together. Anyway, I thought he got off to, in this special cheeseburger, I think he got off to a really hot start, and I really liked where he was going. And then a lot of comics face this challenge where, it's that middle portion, right? There's the ABC, they say in stand-up sets, right? Maybe you lead with your B. You're supposed to lead with your second best joke and then finish with your best joke. So maybe it's BAC is the order that things go, but or BCA. Jesus Christ. I don't even know the friggin' alphabet anymore. My brain is mush potatoes. So it's that middle part that always can get to you because you kind of lose steam and I don't know. I feel like most comics, that's the struggle. It's real. But what the fuck do I know? I didn't put together an hour special. I mean, I probably have enough material to do an hour-long special, but it would be the worst hour-long special of all time. I'm not saying it's a material. I'm just saying I have enough jokes to fill an hour. They're not good, but I got an hour. So, it's tough. But so the synopsis here is no topic is safe in this unfiltered stand-up set from the comic as he skewers everything from global warming to sex injuries to politics. Sure enough, dude. Sure does. The climate change jokes were awesome, I thought. And it's a lot of this isn't new territory, but that's like the beauty of stand-up comedy and I mean humanity, if you want to go that deep, is that there's one thing, one event, one incident, one topic, one subject, and there's a million different perspectives. And as long as your perspective is funny, then it's like, if you bring something unique to it, then great. The way he approached it was, he was like, straws, really? Straws? We're taking away my straws because of turtles? It's just like, straws are getting lodged in turtles' heads? And the way that he told it, where he's like, me dumb. He basically started talking like Cookie Monster. He's like, me dumb. Straw float. Turtle move around. Straw float. Turtle move. I think that was my favorite part. That was probably my favorite part of the whole special. And he basically said, and if you haven't seen it, then I don't want to ruin it. I'm probably going to butcher it, but the odds, do you know how hard that is for a straw to get lodged in a turtle's head? What has to actually happen for that to transpire and to be successful? That's like if you toss the straw up in the air and caught it with your pee hole. If you're a dude. I guess I should have said dick hole. Might be. So really dug that part of it. He had a whole bit section about how Jesus is gay that I thought was like, all right, noble enough. But the meat and potatoes of the special and the whole, reasoning behind the title Cheeseburger is that he was talking about legacy. And he's like, I was going through a mental breakdown. And I was like, okay, did we just become best friends? And I guess during his mental breakdown, I started thinking about legacy. And he's like, I don't know what my legacy is going to be or what it should be. And then he ultimately came to the decision to kind of simplify things and say, you know what? Maybe I'm just a cheeseburger. Like, I just want you to enjoy me for what I am, delicious and fun. And that's what you come across. That's what I want you to come away from this act is like, I'm just a cheeseburger. I'm here. You enjoy it. You build it a certain way, the way that you want it. Maybe it's with lettuce and tomatoes. Maybe it's with onions and pickles. Maybe it's got all that with sesame seeds on the bun. But he's a cheeseburger is basically what the takeaway was. And it was like kind of like a wave of relief came over me. It was because, that ever since my father passed, it was like, oh shit. And, we're going, I mean, it's been almost 20 years now. Neal, what are you doing with your life? But what legacy have you built since then? But I did think a lot about legacy after he passed, and we only have so much time on this earth. And what am I doing? I need to be doing what I want to do, what I love, and sure enough, I didn't do any of that. So I don't have a legacy to speak of. Like, I was looking at my grandfather's obituary, because my grandmother's not on my dad's side is not doing so hot. I think she might have got COVID potentially. She's in the hospital, like the whole nine. And I was just looking at my grandfather's obituary, not to cast any doubt or shadow on my grandmother's health or status, but it was just like, I remember his obituary being I just stumbled across it. I don't know how. And I was like, oh my God, reading it, like, that is a motherfucking legacy. Like, in multiple Hall of Fames, taught generation after generation of students and athletes, was in the military, served in the war. Like, it's just like, I haven't done any of that. I haven't even, like, what? I'm not even going to do 1/1,000,000th of what he did. So, Jimmy Lynch, Coach Jimmy Lynch, if you're into the Googs and and you're curious. But yeah, reading that was like, all right, well, I haven't done any of that. I'm probably not going to do any of that. Although it'd be pretty sweet to coach, like I said last week, like be offensive coordinator, QB coach, just kind of like super behind the scenes strategy. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do any of that, which sucks. But then it's like, maybe I'm a cheeseburger. And that, most of the moments I've had with people, maybe those are memorable. Maybe they'll stick with them. Probably not. Kind of, when there's a lot of alcohol involved, like it's like in the moment, it's like riotous. No, riotous. How do I say that word? You know what I'm saying. Rolling with laughter, but then it's like, yeah, do you remember? No, I don't. Okay, cool. So I totally see him on that level and appreciate that. But so in the metaphor of building a cheeseburger, right? He's saying that audiences, there's been a lot of backlash on comedians for what they say and the jokes that they tell. Citing Dave Chappelle and his jokes about trans people, and saying that once you enter a room, you've bought a ticket to see a comedian, you are an active participant in the crafting of jokes, meaning the comedian has the microphone on the stage. Yes, they are pretty much directing things to a certain degree, but they're trying to paint a picture, but the picture is actually painted by the recipient, the audience member. Like, when he tells a joke, you start, and I found myself doing this with his closer, which was a great example of like what he was talking about, where like he's describing the scene, he's going through and telling you all the details, telling you it's a true story. So it's like I'm in a hardware store, so then you picture a hardware store, and I have my dog, you picture a dog, and there's a woman and there's a girl to the side, you picture the girl, and it's like, so he said, I just want you to like me while you have me. This is all for fun. No, this is real. These are just jokes, and who cares? Which, I agree. And that doesn't mean that people aren't, and he also said this doesn't mean that people aren't allowed to be upset by it. But that ultimately, if you're in that room, you are participating with that comedian in the joke, right? Because you're laughing. The laughter is part of that joke. It's what ultimately is a barometer for that comedian to say, okay, that's a keeper. We'll pass. So, he went after both. He has a disdain for politicians, which I do too. And ultimately, I just want to. It's my pitch to hang with Andrew Santino on Whiskey, Ginger, and Bad Friend, if that's allowed. That's doable. It'd be great. I'd be willing to dye my hair red. I don't know if that's too much red for one room to handle. Although when I do, there's hints of red. Like if I grow out my beard, my aunt was a redhead. I don't know if that matters. If that makes me qualified, like I'm a 1/8 redhead. Yeah, probably not. But, he went after Biden for being, basically what I thought too was like the criticism of Trump for being old white guys out of touch, and then we replaced him with an old white guys out of touch. Like, what are we doing? And then, and he said that Trump people were mad at him for saying that nobody tried to kill him for all 4 years. And it's like, well, it's a joke. He didn't want anyone to get killed, and he was just surprised nobody tried, which is interesting. Considering how inflammatory and volatile he can make people. Assassinations are way down, I feel like, across the board since the 60s. The 60s, oh my God, dude. It felt like everyone was getting assassinated in the 60s. What a decade. Holy shit. But that's really tapered down, which is probably a good thing. Was the last assassination attempt under President Ronald Reagan? I mean, do we count the guy throwing a shoe at George W. Bush? Is that an assassination attempt? Because technically, say W isn't as athletic like a cat like he is, and isn't able to dodge it and gets cracked in the head, falls back, and like falls on a sword or a flagpole that had been sharpened like a sieve. A sieve, dude? What are you talking about? So, yeah. I mean, he had overall, I really appreciated it. I liked it a lot. We're doing out of 10, out of 5. I'll do 6 out of 10 whiskeys. Or out of 5, I do probably 3 out of 5 bad friends. So that's Andrew Santino's Cheeseburger on Netflix. I recommend it. I liked it. I mean, I really dug the first quarter-ish. And then it was kind of got a little derailed and lost me for a good section in the middle. And then he definitely brought it home and tied it all together at the end. As the closer, like the funniest closer? No, but it was kind of just to reiterate his why he called the special cheeseburger and what his general state of mind and mental state is right now. Personally, I think there's only good things for Andrew Santino in the future. I really do. I mean, he does such a great job on Dave, and I just see him getting more. I think he's going to get more and more parts, and it's only up from here for Mr. Santino. So, yeah, I'm buying stock. I believe the stock symbol is his middle name S? Begin with an S, because it would be ass. $ ass, maybe. That's how I'm buying in on that. So the next stand-up comedy special that I was able to catch over the weekend was Nate Bargatze's Hello World on Amazon Prime Video. Synopsis is Grammy-nominated comedian and the nicest man in stand-up offers his take on a variety of topics, including the downsides of being a firstborn, the challenges of playing golf with your wife, and what happens when a bald eagle touches your head. The downside of being a firstborn is real. I'm a firstborn, and it was like like I said, I told my mom, I was like, I was such a fucking coward growing up. Like I've been binging Outer Banks because she told me to watch Outer Banks season 2, and I haven't watched Outer Banks in like two years, and I was like, I guess it's not that bad. There's like decent scores and ratings and reviews and whatnot, so I guess I'll just flip it on and I'll just have it on in the background while I try to do some stuff around the house. And holy fuck. No clue where I was going with that. Downside of being a firstborn. Oh, I was a coward. Yeah. So I texted her after watching it. I was like, these kids in one day will do more than I could in 1,000 lifetimes. If you just take this current version of me and just like clone to the T. Like, I'm just a coward. I just, was too worried and anxious because like my parents didn't know what the hell was going on because I'm the first, right? They don't exactly know how to handle or treat or respond. And then when they had my sister 6 years later, it's like, yeah, we've been through all this. And so like I think they might have eased up on her a little bit more. Like the expectations weren't as high, which I hope my sister doesn't take that as a knock on her at all. It's just that I felt the expectations like big time, to the point where it's like, you're not going to meet any of these expectations, dude. What do you like, just to dial it back a little bit? So I feel him there, where it's like you feel like you're under close watch, close surveillance. So like the idea of sneaking out or like stealing my mom or dad's car because my friend was stranded in the swamps, like none of that. And looking back, that's the time to fuck up. Like, not like big time fuck up. Like, you obviously don't want to murder anyone voluntarily, but it feels like, looking back, like maybe I should just like really decided to make way more mistakes. Cause like, first of all, you're not an adult yet. So it's like, I mean, college, I guess I made up for it a little bit. I definitely made a bunch of mistakes. But like high school, I don't know. And in college, I would not have gone off the rails so much if I just like made a bunch of more mistakes in high school, and then I could like play a little bit cooler in college. Anyway, way tangential on that. But similar thing for him, where he's like, I'm 10 years older than my sister, and she gets away with a lot more. She swears. She says the word sucks, like, and he says, he like, I guess they were really religious, growing up, and or he was growing up, and so growing up in the 80s, 90s, he believed that sucks was a bad word. And he makes a joke like, this is supposed to be a clean show, I'm bringing this filth into it. So yeah, I mean, he's like Jim Gaffigan 2.0 without the funny voices. I don't think he really needs to do the funny voices, but he's a very clean comic. Whereas Santino was like not afraid. Andrew Santino was not afraid to be raunchy or get filthy or go extreme or, stuff like that. In his special Cheeseburger, Bargatze was like kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, although they're about the same age. So I think I related to them, they're both around their late 30s, early 40s. So, but like Santino doesn't have a wife and child. He has a girlfriend, I believe. Whereas Bargatze, he's from the South. He's from Old Hickory, Tennessee, which he has a joke about that because the town is named after Andrew Jackson, who's problematic for what he did. And so he made some jokes about that, which I thought was great. But just like easy breezy cover girl, like comedy. Like, we're not taking any really hard political stands. We're not doing anything talking about assassinating Trump or like, any of that stuff that was going on in Andrew Santino's Cheeseburger. It was very like, I honestly felt like I was sitting on a front porch in the South during like a hot summer night, drinking a sweet tea. Like it really did feel like that kind of level of comedy, just very relaxing, but just funny. I don't know about like uproarious laughter, but definitely like the kind of like, yeah, okay, all right. And one of the reviews I read said that they're surprised that it's the only thing shocking about him is that he doesn't have like a family sitcom yet, which I mean, honestly, if we're going to buy stock in Andrew Santino for Cheeseburger, we're going to double down and say like, there's a big time future on Nate Bargatze getting a sitcom. I already thought he had one. Like that's just, I got that impression that just watching his comedy and hearing his material and like, it's very sitcom-y. Like, okay, this is, I can envision you walking in stage left and like your wife is on the couch and your daughter's like on her phone. And it's just like that. It's just, I can picture the set. I can picture everything that's going on. And I mean, Gaffigan had his sitcom. One was not, I don't know if he had more than one. I think he just had one. I think it was on FX. I could be wrong. It ran for a season, maybe two. But I remember that being pretty good. It wasn't because it wasn't in front of a live audience. It wasn't canned laughter. It was very like, I guess they call it single camera. I don't know what they call it, but might have been on FX. Pretty decent show. I can see Nate Bargatze like probably I feel like he could have a pretty long run. I don't want to say everybody loves Raymond-esque, but it feels like it could be. We live in a different era and time now where I don't know that a lot of those shows can have that kind of run. But then again, you look at like, is Big Bang Theory still on the air? I don't know. Not to say that he's Big Bang Theory, but I see some of these sitcoms that have multiple seasons. And I'm like, Nate Bargatze has got to put up something better than that. He talks about his father finding a screen door, then installing in their home with the lying about his age so he can still eat free at certain restaurants from his parents when they were poor. So I guess you get to eat for free under the age of 12. So he used to have to like, pretend that he was 12, even when he was like 17. He's like, all right, let's do this. And he puts out his cigarette before walking in. He's like, yeah, I gotta, let's hurry this up, bud. I got a hot date or something like that. I mean, the filling out forms joke every time he visits the doctor's office and getting befuddled by the questions, his family's medical history. That gets me. I mean, yeah, hit the spot. Every doctor I've ever gone to has to fill out forms. And I pitched this to my brother-in-law, who's an ER doc, and he just shook his head and walked away. And he didn't have any response, which is amazing because he's got a response for everything. But I was like, how is there not like a national database where like you enter in your information once and it's kind of like your driver's license or your your passport or your social security card or number. Like it's unique to you. It's just updated and you just tell them your name and you give them your driver's license or your social security number or your something and just pulls up your medical history. And it's like all there. You don't have to spend so long trying to fill out this friggin' form. But what he attached to and found so funny was his family's medical history. Cause it's like, how would I know that? Is it like Christmas time? And I'm like, all right, which one of you has got diabetes? Huh? Is it you? I appreciated that because it just, and of course the medical staff there, the majority of medical staffs I've come across, it's fucking hate life. I feel like it's just like, that front desk. Has there ever been a pleasant, nice front desk receptionist at a doctor's office? I feel like, they just don't want to be there and they're just taking it out on you. Of course, that's probably all inside my brain, all inside my dome. Just negative thoughts you're creating. And this is why you think I would be able to finish a screenplay by now, because it's like, how am I creating all this madness in my head and none of it's going on? in reality, none of it. It's all just I'm just constructing it in my mind like a cheeseburger, like Andrew Santino cheeseburger. Golfing with his wife, where he's like, I'm going to golf with my wife. And, there's a tee time, and golf is the only thing in the world where it's like has very oddly specific tee times. And if you don't tee off right at that time, you lose your spot. Like nothing else is like that. And so he's trying to get to the tee for tee time. And his wife is like, I think I'm going to get a drink and go to the restroom. And he's like, all right, well, I got to tee off, because if we don't, then we're banished from the club. Like, and then, he played 4 holes by himself with only his driver, because she drove off with the cart and the bag. So he's there. And he had a bunch of jokes about that. So I thought that was pretty funny. I was a sucker for how he opened the intro before he gets on stage. I was a sucker for that. It's like he basically had all his family and friends lined up like a gauntlet. And he's just walking through them, and he's saying hi and high-fiving and shaking hands. And then he gets to almost the stage, and he has his daughter introduce him on the mic. And then he's got his wife there. He gives his wife a kiss. It was just like, well, that should be me. That should be me. Never going to be me. But I was like, oh, that's such a great idea. And you could see that he is a totally a family man. A funny family. I mean, you think clean comedy and you're like, oh, fuck that. Like clean comedy. Ugh. But I know there are a lot of people that really appreciate that. And then a lot of the clean comedians are like, all right, can we just mix in one F-bomb? But he pulls it off to a tremendous degree. He talked about Facebook Marketplace. Dude, I'm trying to sell. So I went, this one chair I got, first of all, fuck Amazon. And I know it's ironic that I'm saying fuck Amazon when I'm talking about Nate Bargatze's special on Amazon Prime Video, and I am a Prime member. Just stop ordering stuff off of Amazon, Neal, first and foremost. Like, everything you've bought off there, you either didn't need, misunderstood the need for it, don't use it because of that misunderstanding, or it's just a horrible, awful product. I think I've gotten to the point where I would do anything to try and not throw something away. It's like, I'm going to use this until it literally turns to dust. Like, I just don't know why I can't bring myself to say, you know what? Kill the baby, cut the ties. We're done with it. Like, as soon as it's not meeting my needs, why can't I just be like, you know what? We tried. And just move on. I can't do it. It's probably why I try to save my marriage. But I bought this friggin' ergonomic office chair with lumbar support on Amazon, and I finally got to the point where it's like, it feels like someone took a Louisville Slugger to my back every time I sit in it. So I was like, I gotta sell it. I got to get rid of it. And so I'm just trying to sell it on Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp. And I forgot how awful those two, I mean, they're the best apparently, but it's also like being the world's tallest, little person. So, it's my nightmare because I hate selling. It's why I am poor. I can't sell myself. I can't sell anything. Can't sell water to a desert. Can't sell milk to a cow. That's not how it goes. So people are like, I listed it at a certain price, and I'm like, it's like half of what I paid. So I feel like I've had it for less than a year. It seems fair enough. And just people just constantly saying, is it still available? And I'm just like, yep, still available. And the one guy was like, can I drive from Edison, which is like a few towns over, and see it in person? I was just like, sure. But then as I was thinking, I was like, that probably was not a good response by me, because he could just like end the whole concept premise of Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp and all that in general, where it's like you have to pick it up. One option is the buyer can pick it up at the seller's domain, establishment, estate. That person then knows where you live, and it's like, oh, shit can go awry. But as a, I'll say it, as a straight white dude, it's like, as a dude, as a man, a beefy, pudgy man, doesn't cross my mind. Whereas I assume women, that's like number one in their mind. Like, I don't know, like, can we meet somewhere safe? I need to bring a friend. They got to think about all that stuff. I just didn't think about it. I was like, sure, come on in, have a seat, lay in my bed. Let's crush some brews. So yeah, I completely get it. Like selling cheap objects to complete strangers, like talking about, and not telling him that she was selling anything. And then so the strangers show up to his house, and he's just like, "Who are you? What are you doing here? We're selling what? For how much? $5? Like, would you rather get murdered for $5 or just throw away $100? Like, I'll probably throw away $100. Like, obviously butchering it, but you get the idea. So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. And also like the communications is huge. I should know. I was really good at communication in my marriage, but communication is so key in a marriage, and it's probably why mine failed. But it is funny to see, like, it's just not even like they seem, the Bargazzis seem like a very solid, awesome couple. And, he was talking about marriage and how there's ups and downs and there's rough days and good days and whatever. But like the fact that she doesn't tell him about, like, he doesn't wake up early, right? So as a comedian, you work late and then you sleep late. You and he's like, I kind of hate it because I wake up at noon or whatever and everything has happened. And I'm just trying to react to it and respond to it in a quick fashion. And I'm not quick, I'm slow and I'm dumb. And I'm just like, who could relate? I'm like, yes, Bargazzi, right there with you. Slow and dumb. Right here, brother. Whereas I just voluntarily sleep late. Like I slept 12 hours Friday night, still tired. So, but there's loud bang at the door. It's 9 a.m. and for him, 9 a.m. might as well be like dawn, sunrise. And he doesn't want to come down in his pajamas and messy hair. So he's like throws on, and he doesn't know what to wear. So he puts on a suit and he comes down because he's like, a suit is normal, right? And then the front door is, he cracks open the door and the guy's like, hey, did you just wake up? He's like, yeah, we gotta take away your door. We gotta fix your door, your front door. And so he's like, what? Like, I guess my wife's not here, but all right. Because he's not a handyman. I'm not a handyman. So I was like, I could be late. And, just that whole interaction of like not knowing because his wife is away, but also being slow, dumb, and still asleep. It's like the story of my life, bro. So, and there was a man, the man just took away the front door and I let him because I don't know. It sounds exactly, there was a guy, I don't know if I told this story, but there was a guy, the way that our apartment complex is set up is there's like, I think I've said this before, but there's an outer door. I guess I'm in a duplex. I don't know if it's technically a duplex, but there's an outer door that's locked. You need to unlock that. And then there's the bottom apartment. You walk, there's a hallway to the lower stair, first floor apartment. And then I'm upstairs. I'm on the second floor and there's stairs to the second floor. So I think I was watching that erotic thriller with Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas when this guy came, knocks on my door, and I was like, it must be maintenance. So I look through the little peephole and it looks like a maintenance guy with a clipboard. And I'm like, all right. So I open it and it's like, no, it's a door-to-door salesman who's trying to tell me like, are you upset with PSE&G? And I'm like, yeah, dude, charged me like 400 bones when I literally don't have my heat on. at all during the winter because it doesn't work. A, but B, it's like I don't want to pay for this when I'm not here. And so he had me fill out a whole form, and I didn't ask many questions at all. I was just like, yep, okay, yeah, cheaper, sure, why not? And then eventually I started thinking about it. I was like, I just gave some pretty sensitive information to him. So then that's when I was like, I've made a huge mistake. It took me probably a good 5 minutes, 10 minutes to be like, oh no. And so eventually I called the leasing office, I guess. And I was just, hey, there's a guy. I didn't think about it at the time, but he got into our apartment. Like, unless someone left the door open, which I didn't. And I don't think my neighbor does. This guy somehow broke into our apartment. It's been guarded. I mean, they're like, yeah, we know. We called the cops. And I'm like, all right, cool. I mean, still got my info, but at least that's nipped in the bud. And then he talks about, so getting back to Bargatze, he talks about spending the day on his sister's boat on the lake where everyone driving the boat is either drunk or 11. And it's like, yeah, nailed it. It feels like every time, that I've gone on my brother-in-law's boat, you take a look around, you're like, I'm surprised that on all the times that we've gone that we have not witnessed tragedy, like just really bad freak accidents. But I love it every time we do it. We go out into this little lagoon area, and there's a bit of competing battle of the bands with like who's got the louder speaker system, which is kind of sucks, but I guess that's bound to happen where it's like, hey, everyone here has a speaker system, but you get to decide. Okay. Yeah, but there are definitely kids out there drinking, yeah, but there are definitely actual kids who are definitely behind the wheel, under some parental supervision, I would think. But Bargatze also talks about trying to buy ice at a gas station. The fact that the moment he started talking about this joke, I knew exactly. I could picture in my mind the liquor store I used to go to, and it wasn't in Manasquan, but it was like in Brielle, which I used to live in Brielle. Not my daughter, the town, but my daughter's name after the town. I used to live with my grandparents in Brielle, and I could just walk down the street to the liquor store, which was great for a period of time when I wasn't allowed behind the wheel. Whoa. And so, why is the ice so far removed from everything? It's just like, it's so far away. Why? I would be a goddamn nervous wreck if I owned a liquor store and my ice machine is like not connected to, like, not even, it's not within line of vision, eyesight. You can't see it. I guess that's why they charge fucking like $5 for a 10-pound bag, because it's like we're trying to make up for the losses of all the other ones that get stolen. Why can't we move that shit inside? But also talking about like they never have the right amount. It's always like I said, a 10-pound bag that you just don't need, or it's like nothing. So he's talking about going around like, eventually, and the wife won't let him throw out the ice, so he has to go around like offering it to people like, hey, that lemonade looks pretty lukewarm. You need some ice? You want some ice? Like trying to hand out the ice, not to waste it. But yeah, I would say if he's not already in talks or discussions to have his own sitcom, it's gonna start happening. If he doesn't have like a sitcom on the air within the next 5 years, it'll be like something bad has happened. And I'm not going to give examples. All right, so that's Nate Bargatze's Hello World. Let's talk about Weird. Let's talk about Weird, the Al Yankovic story. I have a Roku, and so I have the Roku channel. I don't know if the Roku channel is on other devices. Probs not. So yeah, the Roku channel on Roku. I mean, they acquired the whole back library to that defunct mobile app that had like ridiculous budgets and all kinds of like name brand actors, and so they acquired that once that company went belly up. What was the name of that friggin' app, dude? The Verge? No, the Verb. The Verb, the V, beginning with the V, I think. Founded or co-founded by like a big Hollywood big wig type guy. Jeff Abramson? Nope. Anyway, so that was the bulk of their original quote unquote programming for a while. It was all acquired. And then I guess they're starting to dip their toe into more original productions. And this is the first or only one that I've seen where it's like, I'm interested. But the fact that it's Roku, I can't imagine that they have the same kind of budgets as an Amazon or a Netflix, if you will. And sure enough, I was correct. It's an $8 million budget for this movie. Whoa, dude. And considering the talent they got and how good it was, $8 million is a friggin' steal. Now, I don't necessarily know how they're going to recoup that because it never got released in theaters. I know there was a huge push to get it into theaters in time for the Oscars. And Roku is like, no, we're good. This is like, interesting. Why not just give it I mean, and the run would not have to be that insane. We're not talking about like a wide release, 3,000 theaters or whatever thing. I think it's like, maybe it just has to be in a theater for a week or something like that. Something crazy like that. And they were like, nah, we good. We gooch. And I got to say, maybe a misfire on their part. You submit it, you put it in a theater for a week or whatever the bare minimum is, and then you submit it, and then maybe it does get nominated, and then it gets a second wind. Like, for instance, Triangle of Sadness. If that was not nominated for an Oscar, I don't think it wouldn't be in my queue to watch list. All Quiet on the Western Front is another one where I've been tempted to watch it, but I was like, oh, God, it's so long, and I don't know if it's all in English, and I'm tired. It's like, and it's war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. And respect the troops. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so I think that maybe a misstep. You know, because like The Whale. I don't know if like if Brendan Fraser wasn't nominated for an Oscar, I don't know if I would be wanting to search it out. Although I did recently find out, and this is sad, I just found this out, that it's an A24 project, which is like, they pretty much knock it out of the park every time. So what is this? It's a long-winded way to say that this Roku original production is a biopic, a music biopic. Biopic. Because a biopic is not rhyme. Biopic sounds like a procedure. Medical procedure. In and out. You know, like, hey, you get a cyst. We'll do biopic on it. But no, biopic. Along the lines, in the same vein as Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man. And I would put this right up there with them. Explores every facet of Weird Al Yankovic's life, from his meteoric rise to fame with early hits like Eat It and Like a Surgeon, to his torrid celebrity love affairs and famously deprived lifestyle. So right there by the synopsis, I feel like that gives away a lot. Because if you are a Weird Al fan and you know who he is, then you know that he doesn't do drugs or drink or never has or anything like that, which is definitely weird. It's directed by Eric. I want to say Apple, but it's probably Appel. He's known for, it was also written by Eric, and he's known for Son of Zorn, Die Hard, which I believe was one of those shows that was on that, whatever that friggin' app was that went belly up. That it's a TV series, but I think it's going to be a movie now. And you can imagine who stars in it. That's right. Bret the Hitman Hart. No. Kevin Hart. And he, I think he might have directed a few episodes of Silicon Valley, or directed. But he was involved with that. And then, of course, Weird Al has a co-writing credit. It won the People's Choice Award for this category is weird for TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival. The People's Choice Award in the Midnight Madness category. I think that's how that's supposed to say. Because you can't just say People's Choice Award because I guess they have more than one. I don't know. I remember like Hobo with a Shotgun, I think, won that Midnight Madness Award at either TIFF or South by Southwest. Anywho, got nominated, or Erica Pell was nominated by the Directors Guild of America for outstanding directorial achievement in movies for television and limited series for this movie. So you might think, Roku, $8 million budget, so low budgets on this, like, they don't do a lot of original productions. Pass. Well, you'd be wrong. And I was wrong. I mean, this came out right around my birthday, November 8th or 9th of 2022. And I'm just getting around to seeing it now. And I'm kicking myself for it because I should have been spreading that hot goss, that hot pell, that gospel around the church for months now. And now I'm just getting to it. Bogus. So, and you'll see why. Look at this freaking cast, dude. Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al Yankovic. Daniel Radcliffe should win awards for this performance. Because, okay, he doesn't look much of anything like Weird Al. But him wearing the hair, the big curly hair, and the mustache, and the glasses, and just the level of commitment and intensity that Daniel Radcliffe brings to this role is Bananaland. It's cool. So good. He deserves awards. He just does. I mean, it was so incredible, his performance. Diedrich Bader was the narrator. Doesn't sound like, if you know Weird Al's voice, he's got a very distinctive voice. And Diedrich Bader was laying it on pretty thick, but does not sound like Weird Al. Part of the joke. Evan Rachel Wood as Madonna. And I thought to myself, well, with the way that they did her makeup and her hair, it's like, I get it. She's Madonna, but I was like, I would not have put those. First of all, Evan Rachel Wood in like a parody comedy, you know, and I think it's mostly because I'm coming off of Westworld, where like I'm seeing her in Westworld, and like you know, she has a great voice in Frozen 2. She plays the mom. She voices the mom in Frozen 2. So I was like, I know she's super talented. I just didn't think she had this in her. And my God, she crushes it. So good. I got a little thing for EVR. EVR? No, dude. ERW. ERDub. Evan Rachel Wood. Yeah, I think, I mean, that whole storyline is ridiculous. And it's just, there, you know, I felt like such a jackass because I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be, all right, it's the story of Weird Al. It's the Weird Al Yankovic story. Like, I'm going to learn about his childhood. I'm going to learn about his rise to fame. I'm going to learn about all these things that actually happened. And it's like, nah, dude. How can you are so old and you're so aware? Like you were 9 when was it UHF came out, that movie? Like, you know what's going on. Come on. And yet still I fell for it. And I was like, whoa, that didn't happen. Now come on now. And I started looking at the Wikipedia and I was just like, why am I doing this? I'm so stupid. Rainn Wilson is Dr. Demento, which I thought was a great pick. I mean, I'm not very familiar with Dr. Demento, but after looking at pictures and just hearing stories about Dr. Demento, I get a pretty good sense of like who that character should be. And Rainn Wilson is like perfect for that role. Toby Huss as Nick Yankovic, Al's estranged father, which, you know, I thought that was when I first started. I was like, wait a minute. Because I was like, the reaction here is so over the top. This can't be true. And I was just like, I think that's when I started to get a clue. Hello. Julianne Nicholson is Mary Yankovic, Al's estranged mother. We got his friends, which I don't really recognize any of them. Thomas Lennon as the accordion salesman. Thomas Lennon, who played Chief. No, what was his name? I don't remember his name, but it was in Reno 911 where he's wearing the super short shorts. And he's also, I mean, he's written and been in a bunch of stuff. MTV's The State is where I first was introduced to Mr. Thomas Lennon. But I think he also did like the Night of the Museums series and a bunch of maybe some children's movies. I mean, he's just so good. He was also in Harold and Kumar's Christmas, White Christmas or whatever it was. But it was one of the earlier scenes because he plays the accordion salesman that sells or introduces Weird Al or sells Weird Al his first accordion, which is the devil's instrument, according to his father. And that scene where the father beats the shit out of the salesman is like all time. Arturo Castro as Pablo Escobar. You might remember Arturo Castro from Broad City. He was like their friend on Broad City. He was also recently in The Menu. He played one of the three finance bros who worked for the angel investor that ended up buying the head chef's restaurant. Man, you can say a lot of things about my brain, but sometimes it surprises you. Pablo Escobar. He did a really good Pablo Escobar too. Quinta Brunson as Oprah Winfrey. Weird Al Yankovic as Tony Scotti. Yeah, spoiler. Tony Scotti is one of the Scotti brothers, which is the record label that ultimately signed Weird Al. Will Forte as the other Scotti brother, Ben Scotti, in the scene where he's berating Weird Al. Going so extra on him. I can't say so extra. I'm too old to say that, right? Okay. I got it. Going way too hard. Over the top. Super aggro. I feel like aggro I can still say. On Weird Al. That was definitely a top scene in the movie. Jack Black as Wolfman Jack. Lin-Manuel Miranda as the ER doc, which you see at the cold open, and then later when you find out why Weird Al was in the ER. Scott Aukerman is the police officer. I thought that was who I saw. Scott Aukerman, host of the Comedy Bang Bang podcast, which also is a TV show, which if you're not familiar with, I highly recommend. It's got a kind of absurdist Tim and Eric bent without the benefit of a team of editors, if that makes sense. Kind of like an adult's Pee-wee's Playhouse, but not. Similar, like Pee-wee's Playhouse, but for adults. And Dot Marie Jones's Mama Bear. I honestly don't remember her. I apologize. But that pool party scene had a bunch of cameos. And this is where it's like, they got all these people and it was $8 million. But I think that's more of a testament to just friggin' Weird Al. It's like, yeah, Weird Al, of course, we'll do it. Conan O'Brien played Andy Warhol. Jorma Taccone, who is a member of Lonely Island with Andy Samberg and Akiva Schaffer. He played Pee Wee Herman, did a pretty decent job. Nina West is Divine, who I think was the large lady that had like half a shaved head and all that makeup. Which wasn't she in that movie that was like, had that really gross scene in it? Pink Flamingo, was it? Flamingo something? Ugh. I never saw it, but I think my friend's dad had a VHS of it and I refused to watch it. I don't know. Sue me. Dimitri Martin is Tiny Tim, which I would like to see more of Dimitri Martin. Had his own show. I've always enjoyed his stand-up. What is he doing now? What's he thinking about? He's playing Tiny Tim in this movie. Paul F. Tompkins is Gallagher, doing a very embittered, embattled Gallagher, which I like that interpretation. David Dastmalchian as John Deacon, who is the guitarist for Queen or the drummer for Queen. One of those two. Apparently they try to get someone to play Freddie Mercury, but couldn't because of something, which I'll get to. It's lower down on my notes. And then Patton Oswalt, who this was originally a Funny or Die short in like 2010, I want to say. And then Patton Oswalt played Dr. Demento in the original short, and he was actually going to be Dr. Demento in this movie. And then he ended up breaking his ankle or something like that and couldn't do it. And so Rainn Wilson filled in, but he ends up getting a nice little cameo, a little bit part as a heckler at the bar. Michael McKean, who you might remember from Saturday Night Live. And was he in, not Strange Brew, but probably Strange Brew, that other sketch comedy show from Canada, pretty good. But Michael McKean, I mean, he's been in all the great comedy movies, mockumentaries. This is Spinal Tap, Best in Show, probably a bunch of others. He appears as the MC that introduces Weird Al. Josh Groban played a waiter. I'll be honest, went completely over my head. Didn't recognize or realize Josh Groban. I don't spend my entire day looking at fucking pictures of Josh Groban on the internets, okay? More of a John Mayer guy. Seth Green voices a radio DJ. You could have fooled me. I didn't pick up on that. And then Weird Al's real life wife, Suzanne Kujewski, appears uncredited as Tony Scotty's wife, Sylvie Vartan, which you see at the award show at the very end, the climax. They show his inspiration for My Bologna, which is a parody of My Sharona. I didn't realize he said My Bologna. It's just something like that awful part of my brain. I mean, we're talking about like grammar Nazi on like steroids. Part of my brain where it's just like, he's saying it wrong. It's just like, shut up and enjoy the frickin' song and the movie. Can you just relax? I mean, you're on edibles. Just relax. So there are parts of the movie that are true. It just, it kind of just goes like, it goes from like 100% true to like 90% true to 80% true. And by the halfway point of the movie to the second half of the movie is just like nothing's true. It just like gets completely out of hand, which I love. And like, I can't believe it took me that long to appreciate it. I was like, well, that can't be. No, that's not. No, he didn't. Well, that doesn't line up. So the bar scene is where he performs I Love Rocky Road. It's crazy how many songs Weird Al has about food. And I guess that's kind of like your life when there's drinking and drugs, Weird Al. Just do it. He performs I Love Rocky Road at the biker bar. And his three roommates fill in, which that was one quote unquote plot hole that I did not care for, but ultimately I think it is pretty funny. That he's like keeps trying out for bands and he's telling his three roommates, I just can't, like, I want to join a band, but maybe I should go solo. And they're just like, yeah, you should go solo. And then all of a sudden at the biker bar, they're just like all very proficient in the drums and the guitar. It's just like, he's like, wow, why didn't you guys, after the song's done, he's like, why didn't you guys tell me? And he's like, it just never came up. Like, yeah. Because as it's happening, I'm like, wait a minute. This disbelief is not in suspension. Throw the challenge flag. So that's where he catches the interest of Dr. Demento. That's when Dr. Demento has the pool party where Wolfman Jack attends. And he parodies Queen's Another One Bites the Dust with Another One Rides the Bus. And you hear these parodies and you're like, it just seems like it's so simple, but so like so simple, but, and especially the way I mean, you watch Weird Al sing his songs, you watch his music videos, and they're definitely funny. He's just a funny person, head to toe. Soup to nuts. But Daniel Radcliffe performing these songs where he is just, I mean, full throat, like veins sticking out. He's fucking going for it. And it just makes the song that much better. So he lands the record contract and goes multi-platinum. And there are a bunch of artists, original artists, that get the Yankovic bump, quote unquote, which you'll see in the trivia was a real thing. And then he is interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, and he has that slouch where you'd see from like a young Justin Bieber, or like I don't know, it's like shirt open, gold chain. He has like the chain, the necklace with all the multi-platinum, discs on it. I thought that was good. But then they really start to mess with you, at least with my sense of reality and logic, where they're basically saying that he ends up getting together with Madonna, and he does the song "Eat It," and it's an original song, not a parody. And then Michael Jackson comes out with "Beat It," which is a parody, and then you get to see the tables turned, and he like flips out and pisses him off, and then Madonna just eggs him on, like, yeah, we'll have a bottle of whiskey, and getting to drink and smoke and do drugs and all that. Which "Eat It" came to him when he accidentally did LSD with Dr. Demento. Dr. Demento is in his hot tub, like in his bathroom in his huge mansion, and he's eating like chips with guacamole, and so Weird Al has some chips with the guacamole, and then Dr. Demento's like, yeah, that's got a little bit of LSD in there, and so that's when he comes up with "Eat It" and his trip. When he performs "Eat It" on stage, he gets drunk, insults the crowd, and is arrested for lewdness. I didn't realize how good a body Daniel Radcliffe has. I mean, damn Daniel, like he's got woo, all right. And it's not like when I thought, I don't know what I expected, but I almost forever think of Daniel Radcliffe as still that little Harry Potter. But I should really stop. Like, that's my first impression of him, but he's had a bunch of movies since then that have been like as far from child entertainment fanfare as possible. And they're all, so far as I can tell, really great. I have not seen What If yet. I think I would like to see What If, because I think it may be a rom-com, and I'm like kind of off rom-coms right now because romance is dead and love is a hoax and my heart is black. My heart is black. That's my Rolling Stones. Autographs. You can Venmo me for autographs. Yeah, so he has a near fatal car accident, rushed to the hospital. That's the callback to the opening scene. But that's where he comes up with like a surgeon, which Madonna had been pushing for. She was basically using Weird Al, throughout their relationship to get ahead. And so she thought she would get that bump if he made a parody. So she was pushing on him to make a parody, and he was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And eventually he caves in. Meanwhile, this is all going on. Like, if you haven't seen it, you're like, how's Pablo Escobar? Or if you didn't remember, like, what was Escobar's role? So Escobar wanted Weird Al to play for him as a birthday present. And Weird Al was like, no, I'm not down for that. Like, that's not who I am. And so eventually Escobar kidnaps Madonna. And then so Weird Al has to go to Bogota, Colombia, and rescue her. And that whole sequence is just it's just awesome. And that's when I think that's when that sequence was probably, and I know that's pretty late in the film, but that's when I was like, I fully embraced it. I was like all in, and I was like, yes, Why did it take me and my dumb brain so long to get on this ship? Before it was about as close to sailing off without me as possible. But he takes out Escobar, and then Madonna steps into the role. She's like, no, hold on. Let's not go back just yet. Like, someone needs to run the cartel. And Al's like, no, I'm cool. I'm not gonna go through with that. So I think he tries to quit music, or he does quit music, and he goes to work at his father's factory, which he thought was his dad's wish this entire time. The dad's like, no, actually, I gotta admit, you're too special for this line of work. And I've secretly supported you this whole time, which I thought was a nice little twist. And then that's when the dad reveals that he grew up in an Amish community, but he was excommunicated for taking up the accordion. And then that's what gives us Amish Paradise. So that was the other, again, that if I wish I could have a procedure to remove this from my brain. The nitpicky part of this, when it's like, this Amish Paradise came out when Coolio was hot on the charts, top of the charts in like 94, 95. Gangsta's Paradise, 94, 95, possibly 96. But that it's 1985 is the year in the movie. And Amish Paradise ends up winning a big time award in 1985. And then Madonna, one of Madonna's henchmen, takes him out. So R.I.P. Weird Al, you will be missed. Such a comedic legend and genius. And again, even in the credits, they play with your head a little bit, because it's like, we're gonna show you a bunch of real photos, and then we're gonna show you a bunch of photos where you're like, no way, the Beatles. But it's like perfect. He parodied. Why didn't I see that coming? Where it's like, obviously this man is the like epitome, the top of the top, creme de la creme of song parody artists. Why wouldn't I think that his movie would be a parody as well? And he parodied everything, and it was just on par and just on fire. So great. It was shot in 18 days. Whew. That is fucking quick. I kudos to them for pulling that together, because I would never have thought, oh, this has the appearance of like an 18-day shoot. This feels like it's probably a 3-month ordeal. Why was Daniel Radcliffe chosen? Great question. Weird Al saw him sing The Elements on the Graham Norton show, and that stuck in his head when they started casting. Daniel was his first choice, and I gotta say, knocked it out of the park. Had Daniel Radcliffe turned down the role, this might make you blow some hot wind up your underwear. Not an expression. Come on. Adam Driver was the filmmaker's next choice. I can't see that. I don't know if I can see that. But maybe equally as funny. I mean, Adam Driver's a bigger guy. Radcliffe's a smaller guy. I never thought Weird Al was a smaller guy. So I think that just plays into the whole comedic aspect of it. It's like a guy that kind of can wear a mustache, but is like, I don't think of Adam Driver like that. Although, no, he's got some comedic chops. The Yankovic bump was a real thing, as I mentioned, but not to the level shown in the movie. Many artists saw an uptick in sales after Weird Al released a parody. Nirvana credited him with an extra 1 million units of Nevermind, and Chamillionaire has said his Grammy win was in part due to Yankovic's parody. So Chamillionaire was Riding Dirty, and Weird Al was White and Nerdy, I believe. I can't remember the Nevermind song. I think it's definitely a parody of Smells Like Teen Spirit, right? Yeah. It smells like something. And so this is what I was talking about with Freddie Mercury. Freddie Mercury was supposed to be at the pool party scene, but Queen said no. They allowed an appearance by John Deacon, who is the one who actually wrote Another One Bites the Dust. So it ended up working out. But and they lean into that and they make a joke about that as well, like John Deacon, and then they all try to remember. So he has to say it out loud. So the breakdown on the stage when he gets drunk and he has his shirt off, I was like, as I'm watching, I was like, I can't quite place it. And I'll tell you why. Because The Doors with Val Kilmer, which I hear is a great movie, I have yet to see it from start to finish, but yet I've now seen 2 parodies of it. Possibly more. I'm going to say at least 5 parodies of it over the course of my life. And yet have still not watched The Doors. I got to watch The Doors. Even though it's probably tainted now that I've seen so many friggin' parodies, but I was like, this looks like Jim Morrison from The Doors, even though I don't, but it's a direct parody of Jim Morrison's outburst in Miami at a Miami concert in March of '69, which was also in the movie, directed by Oliver Stone. Yeah, so kudos again to Weird Al, and you gotta think that maybe if he lives another 20 years, we might see another one. I hope maybe this opens the door for just other like good parodies. I don't think we've had a lot of good parodies since Weird Al. I mean, like Naked Gun, Hot Shots. I forget what Naked Gun was. Naked Gun is a parody, and Hot Shots, I mean, those were great parodies. That was the 90s. That was the last time I saw it. I guess, Walk Hard, Dewey Cox Story. That's a pretty good parody. I guess was Ricky Bobby Talladega Nights a parody of Days of Thunder? But not really. I've never seen Days of Thunder. That's another movie I should say. Dude, there were a lot of good movies that I couldn't see when I was 10 and 11. Okay? God. So what do the critics have to say? 84% of all critics gave it a favorable review with an average rating of 7.1 out of 10. And then top critics gave it an average rating of 7 out of 10. I would say I'm right there with them. I think I rated it a 7 on IMDb. The critics' consensus says suitably silly. The movie spoofs the standard biopic formula with all the good-natured abandoned fans would expect. Good-natured abandoned fans will expect. Not abandoned fans. Although I guess if you're a fan of Weird Al, you're a fan of abandon. Like we're gonna abandon logic, reality, go off the wall. Dana Stevens from Slate, who's a top critic, said an appropriately goofy tribute to its subject and co-creator, a movie parody about the life of a parodist. And then I forget who said this one. Radcliffe is winningly guileless in his performance, twitching his costumey eyebrows and mustache like gentle bunny ears, even as he lip syncs Another One Rides the Bus with such commitment that his neck veins nearly pop. Yeah, dude. He went all out, and I really love him for it. He hasn't really made a ton of bad movies. Every movie he's been in, like, what was that movie that he was in? Guns Akimbo, I think it was called, where it's like he wakes up after a night of partying and he's got 2 guns, one gun in each hand, but like he can't get them off because they're like taped or stapled or something to his hands. It's like Edward Forty Hands, but with guns. And so then, hilarity ensues. But I love that movie. There was a movie where he grows horns, devil horns, I think. Kind of out there. And I dug that. I thought that was cool. So yeah, I mean, Radcliffe's had a pretty sweet film career. And deserves more love. He was also in Lost City with Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock. Underrated 80s-esque comedy, adventure comedy. And he was decent in that. I thought it would be cool if it was more of a character-esque type person, but I guess they want to be, grounded a little more in reality. I don't know. So, yeah. Completely agree there. What did the audience have to say, Neal? Jesus Christ. So 83% of the audience gave it a favorable review with a 4.1 out of 5 average rating. It's a bit high, but it's in that range. I'd say if you're going to do 7 out of 10, yeah, I'd put it as a 4 out of 5, or at least a high 3 out of 5 for sure. And the audience says, fast-paced, funny, and star-studded. The weird Al Yankovic story is the not quite biopic that Weird Al fans have been waiting for. Yeah. And what's I say, who knows if there's not another one 20 years from now, because apparently like 30 years ago, they did the Complete Al, which was a mockumentary, I guess, about Weird Al that was parodying the Beatles, the complete Beatles or whatever that is. So, and he pulled a lot of the same, with the photos, like some real, some like look to be real, but are actually fake. So, yeah. I wouldn't, and there's a tie, oddly enough, from Weird Al to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, if you want to stick around for that. All right, so that's Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Let's talk about The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, starring Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal. This came out in April, mid to late April of 2022. I think it was supposed to release, or had started working on it, and then of course COVID delayed things. But the synopsis is Nicolas Cage stars as Nick Cage in the action comedy. In this action comedy, it's creatively unfulfilled and facing financial ruin. The fictionalized version of Cage must accept a $1 million offer to attend the birthday of a dangerous supervan played by Pedro Pascal. Things take a wildly unexpected turn when Cage is recruited by a CIA operative played by Tiffany Haddish and forced to live up to his own legend, channeling his most iconic and beloved on-screen characters in order to save himself and his loved ones. With a career built for this very moment, the seminal award-winning actor must take on the role of his lifetime, Nick Cage. It's directed by Tom Gormican, also written by Tom Gormican and Kevin Etten. Gormican is known for that Fox sitcom Ghosted, which came out like 5 or 6 years ago with Adam Scott and Craig Robinson, which on paper makes sense. And just, I don't think anyone watched it. I think I might have watched an episode and I was like, okay. And That Awkward Moment. He also, I think, directed or wrote That Awkward Moment. And I bring that up because it's like kind of crazy that movie had Zac Efron, Miles Teller, and Michael B. Jordan. Like at the time, we're like, okay, Zac Efron, cool. But we're now almost 8 years later. Miles Teller blew up and Michael B. Jordan blew up possibly even more. I mean, it's like, we're going to look back and be like, what? I forgot that those three guys were in that freaking comedy together. Which I've seen and I appreciated. I think I had pretty low expectations going into it, but Etten has written or directed, maybe written a few episodes of Kevin Can F Himself. Which I don't want to get into it. He created Ghosted. So that's, I guess, where Gormican and Etten, hit it off or worked together. They also worked together on Son of Zorn, which was that kind of mixed live animation series where it's like the guy that kind of looks like He-Man, voiced by Jason Sudeikis, and then it had Tim Meadows and Cheryl Hines. Etten also did 13 episodes, wrote 13 episodes of Workaholics, so he gets a stamp of approval in my book. The cast, we talked about Nick Cage. He also plays Nicky Cage, which is credited to Nick Cage's birth name, which is Nicholas Kim Coppola. And Nicky Cage is a figment of real life actor Nick Cage's imagination, a younger version of himself based on the actor's infamous appearance on the talk show while promoting Wild at Heart, which I don't remember that. I don't remember that movie. I don't remember that appearance, but now I gotta watch. We mentioned Pedro Pascal as he plays Javi Gutierrez, the billionaire and super fan who pays Cage $1 million to appear as his birthday party. What a friggin' couple of years for Pedro and Pascal. With the exception of Wonder Woman 1984, which I honestly don't think is his fault. I think he did the best with it he could. My God, The Last of Us, The Mandalorian, this movie. I mean, it feels like everything he's in is just, so good. Sharon Horgan as Olivia Henson, Cage's ex-wife. She plays the female lead in Catastrophe with Rob. Can't remember. That's so sad. She was also in Game Night with Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams. She's got a nice thick accent. Redhead. Yeah. I didn't see them as a couple. That was my one knock. Cause like, there's no way they were a couple. But so Cage's ex-wife in this movie is a makeup artist that he met on the set of a movie. And so that's how they got together and got married and had a baby, had a daughter. Lily Mo Sheen as Addie Cage, Cage's daughter. Lily Mo Sheen. She is, okay. She's Kate Beckinsale's daughter. Yeah, I did not realize that. Born on January 31st, 1999. Fucking Y2K. No, it's not Y2K. Neil, you dumb. December 31st, 1999. Okay. Yeah. Kate Beckinsale and Michael Sheen. Whoa, they got together and had a baby, huh? Okay. All right. Okay. Got it. Michael Sheen, who was in that show about sex where he got to bone Lizzie Kaplan. Michael Sheen. I'll have what you're having. Dear God. So toxic. Tiffany Haddish as Vivian Etten, which is the same last name as the screenwriter. Okay. CIA agent. And has a partner named played by Ike Barinholtz as Martin Etten, a CIA agent. Ike Barinholtz and Tiffany Haddish have worked together before. There was that Thanksgiving movie that I was like tempted because I was like, I love those two people separately and together. So I got to watch this movie, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. It's like a Thanksgiving movie. It's like, no, I just feel like it's going to be a little too political. Alessandra Mostranardi as Gabriella, Javi's assistant. I'm giving the eyebrows. Mm-hmm. Paco Leon as Lucas Gutierrez, Javi's cousin. Neil Patrick Harris as Richard Fink, Cage's agent. And then there are some surprise cameos at the end, baby. Which I don't want to say right now. Don't worry. It's a coming. So yeah. The plot of the movie. Kind of a similar vibe to Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Where it's heading one way, and I know a lot of movies do this, where it's heading one way and then takes a left turn. You're like, whoa, and there's a twist halfway, and you're like, okay. And those are some of the best movies, and I think it works here, and it worked in Weird, the Al Yankovic story, where you lay down the grounds, the foundation for something that's expected, and then you're like, right at the point where you're like, where is this going? Like it's like, okay. It's just going to go, it's going to go this way and somewhat unexpected way. And then, it kind of, that's when things get good. So yeah, he's having troubles, right? Nick Cage, having troubles with his ex-wife and his daughter, teenage daughter. He didn't get a part. He's now getting no offers whatsoever. And he just feels, he keeps saying like people get so upset with the number of films that I've done and that I'm always working and as if that's a bad thing. And like, actor seems to be like one of the only professions where if you're not working, that's okay. But like every other job, you need to be working. like all the time. And so that's his drive. He's trying to defend that drive, but he's also taking these assignments and these jobs that are not your 9-to-5 jobs, right? As an actor, you pull in these sometimes 14-hour days, 16-hour days for months on end. You're sacrificing some quality time with the family. And so that's what ended up rubbing his ex-wife the wrong way and alienated his daughter to a certain extent. So a lot of the movie is him trying to, come to grips with that and try to amend that, repair that relationship. And he does that through Javi, this supposed alleged arms dealer that is a super van. He has he has a whole secret room where it's like all Nick Cage memorabilia, a huge wax figure with Nicolas Cage from Face Off, where he has the 2 gold guns, Castor Troy. Holy shit, so cool. And says he has a script that he wrote and he wants Nick Cage to star in. And Nick Cage initially is like, no, and then finds out about the CIA tells him that this Javi character kidnapped a local politician's daughter, so that the politician throws the election, so that another member of a cartel can assume the head role there. I forget what it was, mayor, governor, or something like that. So initially he's like kind of turned off or not into it, and then eventually him and Javi become like best buds, very close. And but he finds out about the kidnapping, and so that kind of kicks up a notch. He offers to stay around for longer to help work on the script that he was initially off of, and so that he can collect more information and try and help solve this case for the CIA. This also involved LSD, so it is very I don't know. I'm kind of weird in that I make all these connections in my head, and it seems so clear and obvious, and I feel like it's such a huge revelation that I deserve compensation for that kind of connection. But it is crazy how I didn't really put these two in the same kind of boat, but Jesus Christ, both are like parodies of biopics almost to a certain degree, where it's like, this is the real Weird Al, but not really. And then this is the real Nick Cage, but not really. And in the first movie, Weird, they do LSD. And then in this movie, they do LSD. Should I do LSD? Yes or no? Vote in the comments. So they do that LSD scene was pretty funny, especially when they keep looking over at the 2 guys sitting. They're looking now. They're looking out. Should I look now? Do they look now? Are they looking now? All right, let's go. And then they run away, trying to climb a wall. And such a good movie. I wouldn't put it up as classic as the Wolf of Wall Street drug scene. I think that drug scene trumps any drug scene from any movie. The best drug scene of all time in Wolf of Wall Street, where they're taking the expired Quaaludes or something like that. Oh my God. And the Lamborghini. I mean, like, you can't get better than that. But this was a pretty good distant second, this LSD scene. Because you can just the acting that is done. Like, I'm so glad they picked Pedro Pascal to be Javi. I failed to see off the top of my head who else they could have got that would have been as good, because you can just tell in the chemistry between Pascal and Nick Cage. It's like, this feels like a bromance, and I hate that word, but it's just like, this is like a great duo. So the 2 open up to each other, right? They become more vulnerable, start telling each other some things. Nick Cage opens up about his family, his daughter, who's trying to win back. And, at the CIA's behest, he introduces like the idea of kidnapping into the script that Javi's working on, to see if Javi will slip and maybe reveal, it'll give them some kind of indication about the actual kidnapping. And so Javi ends up flying Nick Cage's ex-wife and daughter to the island so that they can heal and repair what's going on. And then that's when they reveal that Javi is not the arms dealer; it's his cousin Lucas, and that Javi is just getting a chunk of change to, basically be on the payroll so that he doesn't, I don't know, because he's family and he doesn't want to rock the boat, I guess. But Lucas knows that Cage is working for the CIA and he pressures him to kill Nick or he'll kill Javi. And that's when they have that scene where they're both like leading each other to a remote location because they each have the plan to kill each other. And then that's when they can't bring themselves to do it. And then that's where the makeup artist angle comes in, because Nick Cage's ex-wife is a makeup artist. Lucas has a meeting with a guy that has not been seen in public for 15 years. And so this is what it sounds like when worlds collide. You know what I'm saying? The makeup artist comes up with the prosthetics to make Nick Cage look like Sergio Baldessari or whatever, which does not work. Is called out immediately once they get to Lucas's compound. And then we get to see action star Nick Cage, right? Once he's surrounded by hooligans and goons, and saving the day, saving both his daughter and the politician's daughter. They're trying to race to the American embassy. Lucas holds Nick at gunpoint, and Addie tosses him a knife, which Nick uses to kill him. And then that seamlessly transition into the movie that Nick and Javi completed based on their adventure. But so that's the spoiler at the end. It's like, they don't have the act. So it's very meta, but like, I feel like, man, I'm so freaking meta, dude. Some things can be too meta for their own good, but this was the right kind of meta. Anyway, they already have an actress playing his ex-wife and an actress playing his daughter, but then they get actresses to play the actresses playing his ex-wife and his daughter. And so his ex-wife in the movie, not this movie, but the movie that the movie's based on, Demi Moore, still looks goddamn fantastic. And then the daughter I don't recognize, and that's my bad. I'm not hip, not with it. Oh, she played. Did she play? No. Maybe. In Winning Time, The Rise of the Laker Dynasty, Abby? That's not the daughter, is it? No, it's definitely not the daughter. Definitely not. Apparently, she's also in Super Pumped. I don't remember her in Winning Time. What the hell else has she been in? Anna McDonald? iCarly, Super Pumped, Days of Our Lives. Yeah. Oh, Plus One. One of my top rom-coms of all time. Cool. So, that's how it ends. And then Nick congratulates Javi, who got shot when he was trying to hold off Lucas's gang. Let's talk about trivia. Nicolas Cage thought Javi was the best written character in the movie, so much that he wanted to play that role. So you'd have essentially two Nick Cages. I mean, you already had two Nick Cages. You have the actor Nick Cage, and then you have the younger figment of actor Nick Cage's imagination, Nicky. You would have also had Nick Cage's Javi, That might have been a little too much for me. I'm so glad they got Pedro Pascal. It wasn't until Pedro Pascal was cast that Cage eventually relented and was like, I think he made the right choice. Because that starts to get into, I mean, he's done it before. He did it in adaptation. You know, he's. I mean, this gives me like kind of flashbacks to. You have adaptation where he played Charlie Kaufman and Charlie Kaufman's twin, and then you had Being John Malkovich, and I feel like this is kind of a combination of those two, adaptation and the movie that I just said that escaped my brain. Adaptation and Being John Malkovich. So according to Neil Patrick Harris, Nick Cage had body makeup to cover his tattoos. And when he asked Cage why Nick Cage, the character, doesn't have the tattoos that Nicolas Cage, the real person, has, Cage said the character didn't have as many wives as him. Jesus. Within the film, Nicolas Cage has a daughter. In actuality, he has two sons, Weston and Kal-El, and a third child on the way. Congratulations, Nick Cage. Whoa. In real life, when Nick Cage is referred to by his nickname, it's spelled N-I-C, Nick Cage. This film makes it clear through subtitles and all written legible references of Nick Cage. He has a K, Nick Cage. Make it clear the character is based on the actor, still a fictional character. According to Tiffany Haddish, she told Nicolas Cage a story about having sex while watching Face Off. As her first time in a movie theater, Cage laughed about it, saying it was a symbol of their impending marriage. Damn, Nick Cage, you dog. The part that Tiffany Haddish played was originally written as an overweight, stubby, stumpish, short, fat man. And Paul Walter Hauser was originally cast. If you don't know Paul Walter Hauser, he played the suspected Olympic bomber in, what was it called? King Richard, no. The bomber in the 96 Olympics, who was a security guard. That was his name. He was really great in that movie. And then he also was in I, Tonya. I think that was his feature debut, and he was awesome in that as Jeff Glulley, the man behind the club that took out Nancy Kerrigan. Damn, homie. Quentin Tarantino was originally supposed to direct. What? And then, not direct. I'm sorry. When in one of the earlier scenes when Nick Cage like tracks down a director, I was like, I know this is supposed to be a famous director, and I cannot place this director. I just can't. That director was supposed to be Quentin Tarantino, and Nick Cage was like, no. It's got to be David Gordon Green, who he worked with on a 2013 movie. I think it was called Joe. And then Demi Moore replaced Angelina Jolie, which both of them are great choices, but it would be nuts just to see Angelina Jolie in that kind of cameo. Like Demi Moore, I can see, and it's like, oh yeah. If I saw Angelina Jolie, I would be like, what? The original script included cameo appearances by, like we said, Tarantino, Naomi Watts, Charlie Sheen, and Jim Carrey. But they were all the cameos are dialed back due to COVID. What do the critics say about this shit, man? All right. Calm yourself. Metacritic assigned the film a score of 68 out of 100, which I believe is low. But those reviews indicated were generally favorable. Cinema Score gave it a B+. Pretty cool. And Post Track gave it an 82% positive score, with 66% saying they would definitely recommend it. And I gotta tell you, if you had to guess, I'm one of the 66%. I definitely recommend it, especially if you're a Nick Cage fan. You've probably already seen it 1,000 times by now. It's almost a year since it came out in theaters. 87% of critics gave it a favorable review with an average rating of 7.2 out of 10, while top critics gave it an average rating of 6.8 out of 10. Friggin' top critics, bro. Remove that stick from your beehole, bro. The critics' consensus: smart, funny, and wildly creative. This movie is Nick Cage in peak gonzo form. He's matched by Pedro Pascal's scene-stealing performances, which I agree with. I mean, Pedro went toe for toe. You know? So glad that they didn't go with like some stock character. Like Lucas, not bad performance as far as bad guys go. They gave him some color, some depth. Maybe that, I don't know, the casting there, you know, what could have been, I don't know. I'm not saying the actor they got to play Lucas was bad at all, but I think maybe that's what would take it to the next level. If you got someone on par with Pedro Pascal, which is tough. But yeah, every scene that they're both in, it's just, you can't look away. It's just so good. And Hornaday, Washington Post top critic, said, as the movie gains momentum, it shapeshifts from a winking critique of actorly excess and celebrity worship to a playful and on-point critique about the state of American cinema. I gotta look this up. What the fuck does that mean? Critique. A passionate appeal, complaint, or protest. I mean, this is how meta it gets. You know, it talks about the whole movie. Nick and Javi are talking about why does cinema have to have an alien invasion or a kidnapping or action or something to drive the plot? Why can't it just be a drama between two grown men trying to figure out their lives? And of course it follows in that what they don't want the movie to be. But it works. I mean, you know, I might be a dumb American, but it's got me hooked. 87% of the audience gave it a good review. With the verified audience giving it an average rating of 4.3 out of 5, and all audience giving it 4.1 out of 5. So yeah, I mean, I would say I think I gave it a 7 on IMDb. I know it's a rookie grade because it doesn't have a decimal point. Whatever, dude. And then, I'd say a little bit of a 4. Would I put this above Weird, the Al Yankovic story? Oof. It's tough. It's close. But maybe it does edge it out. But just a little bit. The audience says, with some terrific performances and a lot of meta laughs, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is a great time for Nicolas Cage fans, and I couldn't agree more. So good. I mean, I haven't watched nearly, I would say, half of his movies. I mean, he has like 100 and some odd movies. I haven't seen half of them, but I've seen the Criterion collection, I believe. So yeah, add another one to what a storied career. And I hope that, I mean, I know he was playing a fictionalized version of himself, but it is interesting to see, and you don't just see this with Nick Cage. I think you see this with a lot of actors or a lot of famous people, like their whole success, wealth, whatever, is largely based on relevance. You know, I was listening to the Smartless podcast where they're interviewing Brendan Fraser, and they're like, and Brendan Fraser is like, sounded like he's kind of poking fun or making jokes about how he doesn't have work right now, which is insane to say considering he's being nominated for an Oscar for his performance in The Whale. And like the fact that he's had such an illustrious career when you think about some of his movies, Encino Man, School Ties, the Mummy franchise, like he's been in a bunch of like blockbuster hits. It wasn't like a one and done situation. The fact that someone that famous can be like, yeah, looking for work, don't know if I'll get it, but it's just like, what? That's bonkers. And so that fear maybe not drives Nick Cage in real life, but it drove him in that movie. actor, the Nick Cage fictionalized version. You know, I mean, the stress that, and Smartless talks about it a lot, that podcast. So it's like, you know, they're constantly talking about being worried and anxious about finding the next thing, you know, find the next thing. What a life. I don't know. Oof. But yet again, coward. Pointing to myself. Variant Neal, that spells his name with an I, Neil. Maybe he's a fucking rebel and he just becomes moves to LA and becomes an actor and has to live in a car for a little bit because that seems to be a prerequisite to frame. You know, live in your car. Okay. So that's the unbearable weight of massive talent. And we'll finish up with talking quickly about the Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. The synopsis is that Scott Lang, a.k.a. Ant-Man, and Hope Van Dyne, a.k.a. the Wasp, along with Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man, and Janet Van Dyne, the OG Wasp, explore the quantum realm, where they interact with strange creatures and embark on an adventure that goes beyond the limits of what they thought was possible. It's rated PG-13. It's directed by Peyton Reed, who has directed an episode of The Mandalorian. He directed a few episodes of New Girl, Jim Carrey, and Yes Man, Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn in The Breakup, Bring It On, which I wrote an actual paper on in college at the Johns Hopkins University. That exists. I think I had a B+. He directed a few episodes of The Upright Citizens Brigade with Amy Poehler. He directed episodes of Mr. Show with Bob and David, dude. One of my favorite sketch comedy shows of all time. And then get a load of this. And this was unintentional. These 3 movies, I mean, there's some strategy behind it, but I didn't realize that it had these common threads. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, director Peyton Reed, directed episodes of the Weird Al Show. Oh my God. We just reviewed Weird, the Al Yankovic story. So I don't know that I was like a huge fan of Peyton Reed before finding all this out, but it's like, I'm kind of digging his resume, dude. That's a pretty fucking solid resume. I would die for the resume. It's produced by Kevin Feige. Stephen Broussard. Written by Jeff Loveness, great last name, and Jack Kirby. Loveness, his credits include writing for Jimmy Kimmel Live and The Onion, Miracle Workers, which is apparently a critically acclaimed comedy starring Daniel Radcliffe. What? And Steve Buscemi. And it's TBS, I think it's on. But that's a show that I think maybe I should watch. But then again, it's like I tried watching the OG with Tracy Morgan, which was also on TBS, that was also critically acclaimed. And it's like one of those sitcoms. It's like I think I can binge it in a day type of thing with nothing else is on, maybe. And then he wrote some episodes of Rick and Morty, which is going through some upheaval due to the accusations against Justin Roiland, his co-creator. Anywho, saw this in theaters this weekend. It was released on February 17th. I saw it President's Day, Monday, the 20th. Cast includes Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man. After the events of Avengers Endgame, Lang has become a well-known celebrity. He's the author of an autobiographical book called Look Out for the Little Guy, which tells a different version of how he helped save the universe from Thanos in Endgame. Evangeline Lilly, definitely not how you say it. Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne, aka Wasp, with sporting a new do. Got the pixie cut. Kind of funny because it's like, and I don't know if that's intentional, but the connection that my brain makes is like, oh, like, you know, from Peter Pan. Like she's the fairy from Peter Pan because she has the pixie cut with the wings. Like I can't not. Like you are a pixie. Anyway, she's the daughter of Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne. And she serves as the head of the new Pym Van Dyne Foundation, which uses Pym particles for humanitarian efforts. That was like, okay. I don't know about what I'm reading something. I'm just like, I disagree with it. I guess I should say it, huh, Neal? Lily said the film would explore how the character deals with her, quote, fragilities and her vulnerabilities, end quote, continuing from how Ant-Man and the Wasp showed how powerful and capable she was, her fragilities and her vulnerabilities. I feel like this movie didn't focus on that, really. It focused on Paul Rudd, Scott Lang's relationship with his daughter. Oh my God. Just like The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent also focused on a father's relationship with his daughter. Oh my God. Yeah, the focus wasn't really on Hope Van Dyne, the Wasp. It was on Janet Van Dyne, the original Wasp, who had been stuck down the quantum realm for 30 years and somehow didn't bring any of that up to her husband or daughter or family. I think it's, but then again, I haven't been stuck in a quantum realm for 3 decades, so I can't really speak to that. Can't criticize. Jonathan Majors is Kang the Conqueror. I've never seen, I probably should have cut down on this, but holy macaroni, dude. That I've never seen, like in Wikipedia, when you go to the Wikipedia page for a movie and you see like the cast section is usually like a bulleted list. And it's like, here's the actor, here's the character they play, and here's like a 1-line description. This, for Kang the Conqueror, Jonathan Majors, Kang the Conqueror, has just a humongous block of text that's got to be like 17 paragraphs. Time-traveling multiversal adversary trapped in the quantum realm who needs Pym particles to get his ship and device online to allow him to get out of the quantum realm and fuck shit up everywhere else. He's an alternate timeline variant. So there's like, spoiler alert, there's like a bunch of Kangs, dude. A lot of Kangs. Which I feel like we saw in What If. If you watched What If, he was in some of the later episodes, I believe. But one of the versions of Kang was the creator of the Time Variance Authority, which was introduced in Loki, first season of Loki. Kang was described by Loki season 1 head writer Michael Waldron as the next big cross movie villain for the MCU. Yeah, so this is the intro, I guess, at the film level for Kang, and he's basically gonna be like, I think Avengers, the one of the Avengers that comes out in 2025 is gonna be called Kang Dynasty or something like that. So, and they nailed it. I mean, he's an awesome villain. His costume in this, I had some problems with. It was like purple and green that gives me like Green Goblin vibes. And then like his mask, I dug the scars, like the scars coming down kind of make it look like he's crying, which I thought was a cool effect. Then like the shield, his mask or whatever comes down on his helmet and it's like blue and it just looks off. It doesn't look right to me. Let's see here. Jonathan Majors said that Kang would be a different type of villain to the MCU than Eric Killmonger and Thanos were. Yeah. He's got like elements of Killmonger and Thanos, but I would say he definitely makes it his own. I think as I'm watching him, I'm like, okay, this is different. This is, we haven't seen this kind of performance from a villain before, at least in the MCU. I guess you could say Thanos and Killmonger, obviously, but the way that when you're first introduced to him, and even like throughout most of the film up until like the final act, I'd say he's leaning into and using humanity to manipulate and influence like the people he's trying to conquer, right? So it's like, speaking softly and having kind of a soft expression on his face, not this like overbearing, aggressive, he's kind of using relaxed body language. Like everything that he's putting into that character must come from being old AF, he's an old motherfucker, hundreds of thousands of years old, right? So he's seen it all, he's done it all. And so, yes, he probably is desensitized to a lot of what humanity is, but he still knows to use humanity as a tool and a weapon to get people to let their guard down and to agree to his terms. So I dug that, as opposed to a lot of the villains you see where it just feels very stock. Yeah, so if you didn't see Loki, the Time Variance Authority, they basically were in charge of any variant timelines that were kind of branching off due to whatever that's going on. They get clipped and snipped. Like, can't have that happen. That we need to make sure that there's this one main timeline, I think, is where a select few timelines. We can't have millions and billions of timelines. Peyton Reed. Wait, hold on a second. Peyton Reed likened Kang to the Alexander the Great. Majors found inspiration in Genghis Khan, Julius Caesar. Majors added 10 pounds of muscle for the role, focusing on strength and conditioning. By the way, you didn't really get to see his body in full action, but there were trailers and previews for Creed 3. The dude is fucking, it looks like a superhero. I mean, he's got the superhero body. So, yeah, I feel like we're about to see a whole lot of majors over the next, I would say 5 years, but maybe not. Maybe this is just a 2 or 3 year run, but whatever run it's going to be. On par with Michael B. Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Kang has dominion over time, quote unquote, a warrior, strategist, all-time antagonist. Force of nature. Yeah. Catherine Newton plays Cassie Lang, who's Scott Lang's daughter, now 18, has acquired a suit and has come up with technology to communicate with the quantum realm, which, of course, goes awry. And so they get sucked in because she was messing around with the quantum realm. David Dastmalchian. So we brought up, what up? We brought up Dastmalchian because he played John Deacon in Weird, the Al Yankovic story. And now he's plays Veb, a slime-like creature that does not have any holes and that lives in the quantum realm, which when they first introduced him and it was that whole conversation, I was like, this is a funny one-liner. But then they brought it back and they tied it back and there was a setup and a payoff. So good. He played Kurt in the first 2 Ant-Man films. So it's cool that they brought him back. And he's another guy that I remember being impressed with his performance as Polka Dot Man, I think, in The Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad, the first one, 2016, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. And he was great in that role. But he was also great as like that random police officer that was in Joker's army in Dark Knight. So I felt like he's getting more airtime and screen time now, which is great. Katie O'Brien as Gentura, a freedom fighter rebelling against Kang's oppression. I dug it. I thought it was solid. I'm trying to think of what more I needed from it. Like more comedy. There was like 1 or 2 parts that it was like, that's funny for her character type thing. I mean, total badass. So, I got that going for her. Not everyone has to be funny, dude. You know what I'm saying? William Jackson Harper is Quaz, not Quavo, R.I.P., I think. William Jackson Harper, he played Chidi in The Good Place, if you remember that. And then he was also, there's some other direct-to-streamer movie, I think it's on Peacock, about like the resort or something like that, where he plays the boyfriend of a couple trying to save the relationship or something like that. Newlyweds trying to save I don't know. They go to a resort and there's like a murder. And so they're trying to figure that out. Freaking murder, dude. He was great. I loved his performance as Quaz. I mean, the whole mind reading thing is comedy gold. Bill Murray, spoiler alert, dude. Bill Murray's in this. I mean, if you didn't know that going into it, I apologize, but he's listed on the cast. I mean, he's not uncredited. Bill Murray plays Lord Kryler, the governor of the lavish Axia community in Quantum Realm. Has a history with Janet Van Dyne, which I thought that was pretty funny. Reed believed Mary's character represented a person's past, always finding a way to show up again, and the film's theme of secrets between family members and how they affected by them. Yeah, that is interesting, you know. And she does say toward while they're escaping from that scene, because that's the scene where basically Bill Murray has sold her out and is like, we can't have you run around, like you need to meet him. To see that, you know, they were fighting against Kang, and now Kang has found a way to bring Kryler over to the dark side, if you will. There were a little Darth Vader-esque moments with Kang too, like with the hand gestures, and you know, because I'm not too familiar with the comic books and Kang the Conqueror. I've heard the name tossed around. I've never really seen him in action. So I mean, I guess that's part of his character, but it had a very Darth Vader-ish feel to it. But yeah, I did find that funny that, you know, Janet Van Dyne's like, well, I was down there for 30 years. What do you, I have a woman that I have needs. And then Michael Douglas being like, yep, samesies. Her name was Linda or something like that. And I was like, or Lindsay or Linda. I think and I think that maybe that's a reference to Wonder Woman. No, not Linda. It's Diana. Come on, idiot. Who is Linda? I bet that's someone, because the way they said it was like, that's got to be someone. Criminal associate and lover of Eric Killmonger. I don't think so, dude. I don't think that's who I'm thinking about. Oh, here it is. Ant-Man 3's Linda might be one of the Marvel Comics' first female characters. Okay, all right. Well, there's no other information about Linda beyond that one, possibly given the larger landscape of Marvel Comics, is that she might be Linda Carter, which, not to be confused with Wonder Woman actress Linda Carter. Linda Carter was created by Stan Lee and Al Hartley as Linda Carter, student nurse. 1961. First female-led title. All right. Medical student, registered nurse. And she adopted the moniker Night Nurse. Secret medical care for a number of heroes, and became a love interest for Doctor Strange. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Gotcha. But yeah, he's like, I had a thing with Linda. Michelle Pfeiffer is Janet Van Dyne, dude. What a perf. Someone was saying this is like a close second to her performance as Catwoman in Batman Returns, which it's hard to beat that performance. That was like peak Michelle Pfeiffer. But yeah, she does a bang up job as Janet Van Dyne, aka the original Wasp. But I mean, dude, 30 years? You're lost? Whoa. I mean, yeah, that's gonna warp you a little bit. In and out. And then I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, so I'm gonna pass on that one. But Michael Douglas is Hank Pym, former SHIELD agent, entomologist, physicist, was the original Ant-Man. I think it was I was like focusing on his hearing aid for a large chunk of the first half of the movie. I was like, I don't know why that's so distracting, and I know maybe he's hard of hearing, and he's you know, that's something that the character needs. But I just noticed, I was like, every time I was on screen, I was just like looking at it. And of course, there's a payoff, the setup and the payoff. It comes into play during the movie. There were some other cameos right? You have the post-credit scene, if you know what I'm talking about. But here's one that was interesting that I mean, again, this is me, just my lack of knowledge. So they have one of the, I think it was like maybe the opening scene or opening act. They have him, Scott Lang, Paul Rudd walking down the street in his upbeat music, and he's smiling, saying hi to everyone. And then he has this similar scene towards the end of the movie. And one of the men that asks Lang for a picture with his dog is played by Mark Oliver Everett, who's the frontman of the rock band Eels, which I think they have a song called Novocaine, which is pretty decent. I think it was in the movie Road Trip. Novocaine for my soul before I sputter up. Again, so far from what that song actually is. Anyway, his father was quantum physicist Hugh Everett III and the originator of the many worlds interpretation of quantum theory. I mean, holy shit, dude. That is next level Easter egg. I just dropped it on your ass. So the plot, I mean, I didn't really have any issues with the plot. I will say this. Wasn't it like the first Ant-Man where he's like learning how to use the suit and he's really going through some physical rigors, trying to adjust the suit and get used to the suit. And even like they were like, you can't go in the quantum realm. You can't go in the quantum realm. It'll tear you apart. And I remember him when he goes in the quantum realm in that first movie is definitely like he's about to be torn asunder. So then this movie comes along and it's like they get sucked in the quantum realm. A bunch of them don't have suits. And then the daughter ends up using her suit in the quantum realm and is like pretty much has it down pat. It's just like jump and tap was like the one thing that Scott Lang was trying to impart on her was like, jump and tap. So that felt like, okay, maybe we should have, but they already spent a bulk of the first movie on it. So it's like, you don't want to spend too much time on that here. Again, the runtime was like a little over 2 hours. So it's like, I don't know that you want to pack too much more into it. I just felt like, and I guess they did do a good job of when Catherine Newton's character, Cassie Lang, starts talking about the quantum realm and how she can communicate with the quantum realm. You do see that dread on Michelle Pfeiffer's face, Janet Van Dyne. And then she does like freak out and is whatever. But it's like we went from, and you don't get to see them really losing their minds like was originally warned in the first movie until they get to some other layer or level of an even more subatomic level or something like that in the quantum realm. So interesting. Again, I didn't read any of the comics, so take that with a grain of salt, homie. So yeah, Kang crashes. Janet Van Dyne, who's stuck in the quantum realm, helps him out, but then realizes when she touches the ship, because the ship has like a kinetic connection, say that 10 times fast, to Kang. And so she sees all the atrocities that he committed and all the genocide, the murder and whatnot. And she's like, oh, you're a bad dude. And then that's after they had a very heart-to-heart, open, vulnerable conversation. So yeah, Kang's been exiled by the other variants. Yeah. Steel Crawler ship. Got it. Oh man. Yeah, that's true. So Jintora revealed that Janet's involvement with Kang was indirectly responsible for his rise to power. And then the introduction. So this is I guess this is a spoiler because it's not in the trailer. Kang's forces are led by MODOK. MODOK stands for Modified Organic Designed for Killing or something like that. Modified Organic Designed Organism for Killing. Is that how it goes? definitely not. Which of course Scott Lang pokes fun at. But when MODOK first comes on the scene, there are a bunch of kids in the audience. Like there had to be like a 4-year-old next to me. And I was like, this kid, like, I know these seats recline, but you are fully reclined and the seat is not reclined. Does that make sense? That's how small you are and young you are. Like you reclining takes up just the butt portion of the seat. Like you don't even have to recline the rest of the seat. But there's some, like youngins in the crowd, and every time MODOK came on the screen, they laughed. And I was like, I think it's intentional the way they designed him to make you laugh. Yes, of course they did. But it was like that first one, I was like, kind of cringe because I was like, I don't know if that's the intended reaction. And then the more you get to see of him, the more he behaves and acts. You're like, all right, he is the comic relief. Got it. But it's revealed to be Darren Cross, who survived his apparent death at Scott's hands in the first one when Darren Cross was playing Yellow Jacket. He stayed in the quantum realm and was picked up by Kang, and Kang modified his ass. Yeah, so definitely provided some laughs throughout there. So it's all about restoring this power core, right? Because the power core was initially destroyed by Janet Van Dyne when she threw PIM particles at it and kind of blew it up. And then now Kang's like, Scott Lang has to now go in and retrieve it and bring it back to him, or he's going to kill his daughter. I love that the ants come and rescue them, led, I guess, some quasi led by Michael Douglas, the original Ant-Man. I thought that was cool. Although I didn't quite understand how they managed to go to a part of the quantum realm that advanced 1,000 years. Like they lived 1,000 years in the quantum realm at the same time that like the Langs and the Pym Van Dynes or whatever are just like in the moment real time. I didn't quite get that. But apparently they were able to advance technology, intelligence to the point where they could assemble an army and formulate an attack on their own. And they were able to communicate with Mr. Hank Pym via his hearing aid. Yes. Setup, payoff. Love it. I guess, yeah, Cassie Lang is able to convince MODOK to flip sides, change sides, and fight against Kang. And he was pivotal in that final fight scene, helping to thwart Kang. I didn't really pick up on how I felt like they needed Kang's ship to get out. And instead, it's like they just were able to create a portal. It seemed like that came together very quickly. I didn't think that was an option, but now it is, and there's a portal. Holy shit. I honest to God thought Ant-Man was going to die. I thought Scott Lang was definitely going to perish in this movie. I thought this was going to be like, this is how they're kicking off. Like, what a kickoff to Fate. It almost like was a foregone conclusion. I heard so many people talking about like, okay, someone big is going to die, and it's going to be probably Ant-Man, and that'll be enough to kick off Phase 5 and to let people know that Kang's for real, and that Scott Lang is just one of many that are about to fall at the hands of Kang. And he didn't. And I'm kind of happy for it, that was the tone, at least, going to this movie. It wasn't going to have this kind of more, I don't think they really dialed back the comedy that much. I get, it had a heavier feel, but that was the intent. Like, this is the kickoff of Phase 5, the intro of Kang into the feature film world. It needed to be heavier. So yeah, I don't. It's we'll get to the critics and the reviews in a little bit, but like I was fine with it. I think. I mean, it it is a tough look for Kang, that's for sure. Where it's like, you're being hyped up as like the this the antagonist of all the supervillain of all supervillains, and you can't be like Ant-Man and his family. So I could see how that's like a negative in his that's an L, a big L, but um we haven't seen the last of him, and it's gonna get cranked up even more. I did enjoy like they get back. uh Hope Van Dyne, the new Wasp, goes back in the because I think Scott Lang pushes Cassie Lang through the portal, right? Because he doesn't want her to miss out, and basically sacrificing himself in case the portal closes. He didn't want his daughter to be stuck on that side with him. Figured he'd sacrifice himself, and then Hope Van Dyne as Wasp flies in, gets Scott, and brings him out. That to me was, I guess, the part of the movie that didn't fully come through. Is they did have that, that opening narration where he's walking down the street, and then they show him narrating a bunch of scenes where it's basically talking about what Hope Van Dyne's been up to, and then you see them kind of get together and share a beer on a crane overlooking San Francisco, and it's like that's kind of like the extent of what's going on there. This is more of a father-daughter movie, and then like you have Janet and Hank, and you have Scott and Cassie, but it feels like, um, a lot of times Hope Van Dyne was just kind of there, and we didn't really get to explore. It didn't feel like, her relationship developed with anyone really. I don't think. I guess her mother, you know, she was pretty upset with her mom because like her mom just held all those secrets from her for that entire time. Pretty pissed about that. I would be too. But I did like the opener, like happy, what's next type of thing, like being okay with it. Whereas his daughter's like, oh, so you're just going to be okay with it? That's like, this is your life from now on. And you need to want to help people. Like that should be part of your future, is like helping people, helping communities. And that was a major theme of, most of the plot was like, we can't turn our backs on this community. We can't just try and escape and leave them here to die. Like we need to help them out. And I was like, all right. So then the closing scene with Scott Lang walking and talking, narrating, mirrors the first scene, but then the tone, like the musical tone, becomes eerie, and you start to get the sense of dread. Because as Scott happily resumes his life, he begins to rethink what he was told about Kang's death being the start of something terrible happening, but eventually brushes off with, "Oh, it's fine." I dug that scene. But overall, I was like, I know that people, myself included, get very like pissed off when the movie includes way too much CGI. And this movie had a lot of CGI, but it wasn't distracting. It wasn't like this is obviously CGI. I thought most of the CGI was pretty well done. And maybe that's because it was in 3D. I saw it in real 3D. And maybe that helps things. But I wasn't like, oh, this is such CGI bullshit. It didn't really impact my viewing habits in a negative way at all. So that wasn't an issue for me. Again, Michelle Pfeiffer, good performance. Jonathan Majors, great performance. Michael Douglas was more seemingly relaxed in this movie versus the first two. And, I thought Catherine Newton did a pretty decent job. I don't think it was, she wasn't like stealing scenes or anything like that. Maybe, given the performances by Paul Rudd, which It feels like maybe he's done with that character. It feels like maybe he's over it. But he's just so nice and polite about it. I don't think he'll ever reveal that. But he has said in the past, like, he doesn't go after roles that for the money, you know. He goes after it because of the character and the people that he's working with in the script. So I think he's pretty content with what he's doing. There were 2 post-credit scenes. So the first one was we get to see all the Kang variants. There's like Rama Tut, something like that, Egyptian type looking dude. There's like a cyborg looking guy, which I thought was an interesting choice that they would go with the cyborg looking guy. It's kind of like a needle in the side of DC Films universe. And then another Egyptian looking dude with a kind of a raspy voice that I guess is like one of the oldest. And that triumvirate kind of is the council that leads the thousands or hundreds of Kang variants. So it's basically them talking about how they're we're gonna take care of biz. And then the next post-credit scene was towards the end, and it was a variant of Kang whose name was Victor Timely, and it was in the 1900s and 1920s, something like that, talking about some revolutionary technological advancement. And then in the crowd is Loki and Mobius, Owen Wilson as Mobius. And Loki looks pretty dude, very emotional, like tears in his eyes, like, oh my God, what is going on? It's about to get nerds up in here. All right, so trivia time. This is the first Ant-Man movie not co-written by Paul Rudd, and you kind of got a sense of that. Like, it was missing a little. It still had a healthy dose of Paul Rudd being Paul Rudd, which is always great. But it did feel like it was still missing his touch a little bit. So Peyton Reed, we went over his resume. Awesome resume. I think I failed to mention that he directed some behind-the-scenes material for the Back to the Future franchise, especially Back to the Future Part 2, which came out in 1989. And there's that family dinner scene in Quantumania where they have the small pizza, and they puts a little drop on it and expands into a big pizza. And so that he says that was a tribute to the making of documentary that he did for Back to the Future Part 2, where it's like they're in the future. Michael J. Fox is in the future. The McFlys are all gathering around for pizza, and it's this little pizza, and then they put it in that what it looks like a microwave, and it's just like what do they call it? Rehydrator? Something like that. It expands into a full pizza. He said that was a tribute. That's a little tip of the hat to it, he revealed, which I thought was cool. Scriptwriter Jeff Loveness based the dynamic between the fathers and daughters in this film on the father-daughter films Father of the Bride and Hook. Hook was a father-daughter movie. I haven't watched that since I was 12 or 11. So maybe I need to rewatch that. But yeah, I got some Father of the Bride vibes. Definitely, for sure. Kang's facial scars resemble the markings on his mask from the comics. His face shield also makes his face appear blue. So I get it. I dug the scars. I did not dig the shield. And apparently there have been many attempts to incorporate MODOK into live action film or TV series before this film debut, but also he has a TV series on Hulu. And I don't know if that has any ties. I think Marvel at one point was just like, we've got it all, baby. Take a look at this library. And they were just like, hey, take a walk around, pick something out. You can't have any of this section, but you can have this. MODOK, huh? MODOK was in an early version of the script for Iron Man, where MODOK was the main villain. Whoa. MODOK was going to appear in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I just don't see it. And Peter Dinklage was odd to play him. Whoa, dude. Marvel rejected the idea in favor of Alexander Pierce, which, as unmemorable as Alexander Pierce is or will be, played by Robert Redford, who is not unmemorable, very memorable. So not a bad move there. And then they thought Dinklage was going to play MODOK in Avengers Infinity War, but ended up playing Eitri instead, where he woke up the Dwarf Star, I think, for Thor's new, not hammer, the battle axe. What is it called? Stormbreaker. Yeah. And then MODOK was going to be in the 5th season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but nope. So MODOK, long time coming. And I got to say, it looks like he died in this film, spoiler, but I don't know that we're going to see him a ton moving forward. It's kind of, it kind of makes sense to see why, unless he's going to be that kind of funny side villain here and there, like one scene and other, I don't know, installments. It just feels like, I don't know that you can carry the movie as a villain. It's a tall order. So I can understand why they've tried multiple times to incorporate him, but it hasn't worked out. It's like, ultimately, we can do better. Kevin Feige called the film a direct line into Phase 5 and will lead directly to Avengers Kang Dynasty. So what did critics say? Metacritic had a weighted average score of 48 out of 100. Oof, with mixed or average reviews. Cinema Score, average grade of B. Post-Track reported 75% of members gave it a positive score. With 60%, they would definitely recommend it. I would definitely recommend it. 47% of critics gave it a favorable review with average rating of 5.6 out of 10, while top critics gave it an average rating of 5.4 out of 10. And then 84% of the audience gave it a favorable review, with verified audience members giving it an average rating of 4.2 out of 5, and all audience giving it an average rating of 4.1 out of 5. All right. Well, I will not be as harsh as the critics here. I think I gave it a 7 on IMDb out of 10. And I would say, yeah, probably in the high 3s out of 5. 3.5 to 3.9 out of 5 on that 5 scale. The critics' consensus, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania mostly lacks the spark of fun that elevated earlier adventures, but Jonathan Majors' Kang is a thrilling villain poised to alter the course of the MCU. Yeah, not as fun. Okay, I could see that, but that's part of the issue with Kang. I don't know how much fun you can have with Kang. Right? It's like Thanos. Like, did you have a lot of fun with Thanos? Right? Thanos was impending doom, and Kang wanted to have that same kind of resonance. And so I don't know. So maybe Ant-Man wasn't the best way to kick it off, or was it? Because it's like, this is just a little warm-up exercise, a little foreplay for when we're really going to unleash the full Kang in later installments. So, I would not be as harsh as the critics. And I think this is a case of I think a lot of the critics are probably just friggin' tired, of the MCU. I think a lot of people probably would say that it peaked with Endgame. It's like, how do you top that? It's a culmination of a decade's worth of movies, or more than a decade worth of movies in installments. And so just to get to that final culmination, to get that final spot, it's like, how the frig do you top it? And you can see it's not exactly, we're not there yet, but who knows? Like, if you put us out another, they really have to show kind of signs of something happening in the next couple of years here, right? Like, if Avengers Kang Dynasty comes out in 25 and it's like not on par with most of the it's got to be better than, as good as, or better than the original Avengers, I would think. Because if it falls short of that, then I think they're in trouble. But I think this is a case of just like, and this was mentioned in a lot of the reviews I read, was Phase 4 felt like a mess. There wasn't anything cohesive tying it together, really. although they cited like WandaVision there was tie-ins to Doctor Strange, and then you would see Loki had tie-in with da-da-da. So it's like there were here and there, but it wasn't as cohesive as it was in the phases leading up to Endgame. So now this is like, I guess, them resetting, and Kang is that common thread. So it's like, all right, Kang's the dude, he's the threat, and now everything is going to be kind of driving towards that big battle, that climax. So look, I was going in expecting to be like, oh man, they really mailed this in, they phoned it in, and this is just boilerplate template type stuff. For the most part, it was, but I love the world that they created. It had like a little Star Wars vibe to it, where that cantina scene, like it had Star Wars vibes to it. And, I like that they had to drink the ooze to understand what they were saying. The holes pay off. The guy had no holes. And then he gets like fucking shot up, and he's like, I have holes. Like, he's so happy he has holes. Yeah, I mean, I laughed a couple times, but I guess I would say pleasantly surprised. Like, I wasn't like, wow, my life changed. It wasn't like that, but it definitely felt like, okay, I don't mind this being the kickoff for Phase 5. If this was like, if they had inserted any other villain than Kang, that's when you had to start to wonder. You'd be like, is this part of Phase 4? Like, what are we doing here? But now we've Doctor Strange touched on it. Doctor Strange and Spider-Man both touched on introduced the multiverse idea concept, and now we're going to fully run with it with Kang, and then Loki also extended that as well. So I'm excited. Like, multiverse, dude. I love multiverses, man. So cool. So I think it's a good first kickoff for Phase 5. I think there is a little bit of fatigue. And even Feige, I think Feige said it, like, we're just pumping out way too many movies and TV shows. And I think we need to space them out a little bit more. And that might be part of the fatigue. And I kind of agree with them. It's kind of like, yeah, like, I know that there's a desire and a need for it, but at the same time, I think it might start to wear on people. So that's a good idea to kind of space it out a little bit more, give people a chance to breathe. So yeah, that's Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Where do you go from here? What's next on the list? I forget. But they got their villain. Kang's a pretty solid dude. I mean, not a great look to be kind of owned by Ant-Man. But yeah, I think good things could come of it. So that's the show. Thanks so much for watching and listening. A nice, cool, crisp, brief 3-hour podcast. But we'll talk to you next week. Adios, muchachos.